I'm trying to not use profanity, but
we appreciate that. Yeah, we like our clean rating on Mage Talk. We don't want to lose our clean rating.
I know.
I mean, Philip cusses like a sailor when I when I talk
before
to him
you press
privately,
record. It's bleep this and bleep that.
All he does is just every second word he's cussing like a sailor.
Like a sailor.
Say that all again. Just say that all again.
The fact that your money printing machine goes right now. The guy tweets one tweet says I've got a developer for 150K somewhere in a nondescript location, probably in my shed in the backyard, and it's just he takes that $20,000 check to the bank. Done. 95, bang. 95, next 95, one.
98.
Another week of Costa Rica.
Yes. Right. It's
unbelievable. And
but that's the real reason. That's the real reason you stayed so long in Costa Rica, Karen.
This is true. Yeah. Too much.
I feel like it's a tax play. He's like trying to optimize his tax situation. Like how if I live 3 months of the year in Costa Rica and 4 months of the year in somewhere else, do I have to pay taxes? That's the question. Really.
You get into Bitcoin. You get some time in Latin America, and you really start working on that tax bill.
I knew I missed something.
You go and stay in like the world's most ecological country. Like Costa Rica was the first country worldwide that was going to be carbon neutral. You're gonna stay there, and you're gonna spend all your money burning the whole planet down with your cryptocurrency.
It's bizarre on so many levels. Literally the last 5 days in Costa Rica, I just got wildly into Bitcoin, listening to hours of podcasts.
And then they sent you back.
And then
they sent him back. They're like, America, can you take this guy back, please?
Please get this guy off our hands.
You will single-handedly killing their CO2 neutrality. Yeah.
It just isn't
the carbon neutrality.
Isn't Greenland don't they run or is it Greenland? Which is that country that runs off of underground heat? They have
geothermal. Iceland has a geothermal. Yeah.
Heat. I'm such a caveman. What's that? Yeah. Isn't that aren't they 100% geothermal?
And wouldn't it be great if we could just repurpose all of that useful energy into, just useless transactions on the blockchain that has a theoretical value that we've all agreed to? Wouldn't that be great?
I could get into this, but unfortunately,
this is the wrong show for that.
We need to talk about Hyva.
It's pronounced Hyva is how I think you pronounce it.
I can't remember. Hyva, help us out, man.
Hyva.
I thought you guys settled this in the last episode.
We didn't. Yeah. It's been 6 months since the last episode. Who knows when? Who knows what's even happening? Hyva. I would profess to have firsthand knowledge of Hyva, but I haven't touched it in months. And it was me playing with a GitHub repo that was not much of anything.
The admin.
Yeah. What do you got? What do you got these days? It's single-handedly revitalized the entirety of the Magento community, or what was left of it. Willem, tell us what's good in Hyva land.
What's good? Well, let's call it Hyva to start with.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll offend the Finns.
Wouldn't want to do that.
They're already offended. There's nothing more that we could do to offend them. They're already offended.
The only thing I have to know is, do you hear people pronounce it wrong all the time, or has everybody?
Yeah,
you're mostly you love it. Okay, you're not tired out by it. You're going to correct the record. I appreciate that. I would too. If I was the creator, I would correct the record nonstop. I think that's the way to go.
I mean, I chose this knowingly that this was going to be an issue for some people, but I like the name too much, and as I think explained before, there's a marketing game there where I studied marketing communication marketing. And one of the first lessons, the more often someone repeats your brand name, the better it sticks. So when you spend a good 30 seconds on the last episode pronouncing Hyva, 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 I was satisfied. It was a conscious choice. I knew, and Finnish is the hardest language I came across, having lived there for 4 years. I think I know about 25 words still today, but yeah, it really resonates with me. It means good and desirable yeah, it's kind of the soul of what I'm trying to accomplish. Like, it's not it was someone who thought it was kind of arrogant to say that your company is good, or your product or you are good, which is not the intention. Or the soul of what's in there is that we're trying to do good and trying to craft the best possible product that we can, and have an enjoyable experience there, and do the best that we can. And we've got so incredibly lazy in well, not lazy, but I personally think we went in kind of a strange direction in the e-commerce technology world, or the web world in general. And I'm trying to bring back some of that pure old school HTML, CSS performance quality, and it's incredibly much fun to work with those tools, and then to enrich that with tools like JavaScript, instead of starting out with the tool and starting from the highest possible complexity and the hardest tools you can pick, which are the hardest to optimize for performance and need the most knowledge to, or the most skills to actually pull that off well. So to build a really good web shop with JavaScript only, or a SPA or PWA, well, PWA is not the right term, but to pull off a really good SPA, single page application, you need money and time and skilled people, and that's 1% of the e-commerce world. So I don't think that should be
less than 1%. Yeah, they don't have money, they don't have time, they don't have skilled people. Unless, Kalen will drop a tweet that'll hire them one. It'll make him a cool 25K.
95, 90, 100, 100, 102.
I feel like it's the same 7 people every 3 months, but that's beside the point.
We just recycle them.
That's what I think. That's what I actually believe that, but we're gonna. Feel like he's flipped the same developer 7 or 8 times easily, but I'm gonna. Sorry, back to Willem. So it's only 1%, and I think that it's a shame that this idea of best practice of the way that we deploy e-commerce applications, or this like future casting of the way e-commerce, the trend line of like the style of development for deploying, well, any application. Never mind e-commerce, but it's like, oh, I'm building a simple website. Like, I should definitely build that in 95% JavaScript. That makes perfect sense. I think that's been a mistake that has led to more harm than good. And yeah, so for you, was that just first principles? It was like, let's start with like why, like what makes a good developer experience and an enjoyable developer experience that solves problems that we all have? Is that kind of the...
Yeah, well, first of all, this was all by accident, so to say. I built a tool for myself. I was going to build a web shop for my wife, and that still didn't happen.
Husband of the year.
Classic developer move. I needed to do this, so I built a framework, built an entire ecosystem, recorded 19 podcasts.
Yeah,
and I haven't done the thing yet.
Also, by the way, honey, we're not going on vacation tomorrow because I have to ship something, so we're going to go on vacation 2 days from now. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Bill. Go ahead. So you're going to build something for your wife. I love that this came out of a use case that you had. This is great.
Well, I battled the front-end framework, the default Magento framework, for the Magento 2 front-end for 5 years. The last 2 years specifically on performance. I know how much time and money you can sink into that front end to make it perform, and it's getting harder. It keeps getting harder, and one of the reasons there is that the tech stack is outdated, and there's also already too much JavaScript in there. And the way, well, let's not go into that, but that's a dead horse. Let's leave that there. And the proposed solution was PWA, which would be the holy grail of performance and developer experience. And I haven't seen that in the past years. I worked at Internet, this a German agency, up till the beginning of this year. And shout out to them, by the way, who made the whole Hyva thing possible. But I worked mostly the past 2 years with them to optimize front-end performance. And I've seen they tried other solutions. First you had Dady, which is now called Falcon, based on React. Then PWA Studio came off the ground, or got started, and Vue Storefront came, and some other bit smaller initiatives came, and all of those are JavaScript first. And Internet is one of the most highly skilled agencies. They're not the largest one, but they're very renowned for their technical capabilities. These guys are brilliant. They had the hardest time to adopt to PWA, this JavaScript first front end. And I think that's typical for our ecosystem. I think it takes a special kind of developer that is able to work with the JavaScript framework. I think a lot of junior developers now get started in that world. They skip the whole HTML base fundamentals and just dive straight into these frameworks. And I think it's fantastic the way we thought that Flash applications were fantastic 15 years ago. And for me, that's not the kind of work I want to do and the kind of systems I want to work with. I like the purity of HTML, CSS, and the added capabilities and the extra flavor you can put on top of that with JavaScript to enrich the UX and to help tackle some accessibility issues that can't be solved without JavaScript. But in the basis, your browser is capable of doing all these things that these JavaScript frameworks are letting you do, but without the 1 to 2 megabyte of framework that ships with it, that you all need to download before your browser is able to comprehend the code that you're shipping. So first it needs to load in this framework, and then your code on top of that, and then your browser needs to find out what everything does and then build you a page. And if you just ship the HTML and CSS with a bit of JavaScript, your browser is ready to go. Like, they can instantly build a page for you. To come back to the Magento ecosystem, I think we're dealing with at least 90% PHP developers that very highly skilled in backend. I think frontend has always been a bit behind in Magento world. There are some outliers, agencies that do really well in frontend, but I think the complexity of e-commerce and Magento has always attracted technically skilled backend developers that have a lot of overlap, that become full stack developers that also know some front end. And just the front end developer always has had a hard time working with a Magento front end. because it gets quite technical very fast, and especially with these systems that Magento 2 came with, where you need to everything, PHP, XML, 5 JavaScript frameworks, just to render a checkbox on your checkout page. So I was very much living this problem. That was my work life. And then my wife asked me, hey, can you build me a web shop? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. But I'm trying to not use profanity.
We appreciate that. Yeah, we like our clean rating on Mage Talk. We don't want to lose our clean rating.
I know.
I mean, Philip cusses like a sailor when I when I talk
before
to him
you press
privately,
record. It's bleep this and bleep that.
All he does is just every second word he's cussing like a sailor.
Like a sailor. But
but
as soon as that record light comes on, I clean up the act.
He cleans up the act.
I clean up the act. This is a family show. It's a family show.
This is a family show.
To rephrase that in my mind before I speak the words, I wasn't too enthusiastic about building a Magento 2 shop in my spare time.
Now I'm just trying to think in my head, what was the cuss word he was trying to say? That's all I can think now. Is
not
what
even.
Did he want to say? He wanted to say, I don't give a bleep about this bleeping web shop.
I mean, it is a bleeping web shop. I've worked with Magento for a decade. I was saying that with Magento 1. I was like, freaking Mage Mail. Why does it have to rewrite this class? Why do I have to come in here and rename this every friggin' time? Friggin' Mage Mail.
What was Mage Mail again?
I'm not allowed to talk about it. Never mind. Yeah.
Class rewrites were fantastic, and
I
for one miss them. I will say that. I will say that on the record.
Class rewrites were the thing that built the empire that is, now Commerce Hero, that stands on the ruins, the archaeological ruins of prior businesses, like good links. Should we and class rewrites is what paved the way. It was the precursor. It was like the
rewrites funded this entire thing.
This whole thing is, if class rewrites didn't exist,
microphone, the table you're both sitting at, are all funded by class rewrites.
It's kind of true. I mean, when you think about it, if class rewrites didn't exist, there would have been no need to create like a standalone like Stack Exchange just for class rewrites. Like that was the entirety of an entire generation of Stack Exchange answers wherein I made my career. I made a career out of answering Stack Exchange questions, and Kalen made a career out of making money. Very different career paths that we chose.
Selling your answers.
Selling my answers as product like roadmap. Maybe we shouldn't.
I get a phone call. They ask the question. That'll be $100.
Yeah, and he puts up a tweet. 20 grand. Bang.
Sorry. The hardest part of development is like Googling something about Magento and still finding Magento 1 answers that you don't want to see.
That is the hardest part. You're right. That literally nobody wants. And it's kind of amazing. I'm pretty sure, Madius still, to this day, gets 100,000 points a month just on old Magento 1 answers. And there's, we have some people in the community who are keeping it alive too, with the support of the legacy software. So who am I to say that that's good or bad? But when you go to solve this, by the way, if I could interject something, Willem, it's really interesting to me to watch this come around full circle 12 years into the Magento world, because my very first Magento deployment ever was in I want to say January of 2009, and we deployed it as a cart and checkout only. We wrote a module to be able to take an add to cart action from a URL. And we had a static site, and the static site was generated from a Zend framework application that we wrote. Like, we've come full circle.
And it's still live, and it still scores 100 points.
And it still gets 100 in Lighthouse. That's right. And you know what's amazing is, like, we went full circle through a whole, like, let's create everything as a JavaScript application, and then, oh crap, what about server-side rendering, you guys? That's important. And then we went full circle back around to static site generation, and, you know, here we are, talking about it, you know, handcrafted HTML all over again. What a time to be alive.
It's been neat for me to see, like, people like using Hyva in the wild. That sounds funny to say it like that. But like when you first had told me about the project, Willem, I was like, oh, you know, cool. Like, you know, people will tell me about things they're working on. Oh, I started this thing. Cool. And I'm always like, oh, that's great. You know, hopefully it works out. But 9 times out of 10, it doesn't really go too far. And then, you know, I'm talking to developers, you know, here and there on as I'm, you know, doing my thing, doing what I do. And like, I'll hear from somebody who I don't even know, just, you know, a Magento developer somewhere, and they're like, yeah, like, I started using Hyva, and it's like made me totally re-energized about my job, you know. And I talk to people all the time about their jobs, and like, having a job that's frustrating, working on something that's frustrating, sucks a lot of your energy out, you know. And like, I'm hearing from multiple people going like, oh, this has really made me excited again about, you know, what I do. And I'm just like, oh, I thought this was just my buddy's like fun little project. And it's like, it's neat to see how it's developing and picking up steam, and picking up an ecosystem, and really like making, you know, people's lives better, you know, in that way. So
it's making people's lives. You know how this is how you know when it's become pervasive is when I start seeing job postings that say 10 years Hyva experience required. That's when you know it's reached a critical mass.
That's where, you know, there's some marketing, there's some e-com director somewhere that was told, you got to go with this. And they say, we want 10 years of it. Darn it.
Yeah.
And
you need a master's of computer science and
Hyva.
And 10 years of Hyva. I have to wonder why. Is there like theoretically how tied to how dependent is this on Magento and the success of Magento in the future? I have to believe that there is, you know, a case to be made to simplify other front end development pipelines and to have more performance that's not JavaScript and headless oriented or headless required. What say you to that? Like, what's your sense of the sustainability of Magento into the future, considering that, you know, the large bulk of Magento deployments were open source, right? What's your outlook on the sustainability of Magento as a product?
Then you're talking about the open source monolith.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is of course for us a really really important topic, and let me think. We're working on securing that future for us, but also for our merchants and the agencies we work with. What can I say? We're making plans of our own, so to say. We're very much. I am very much hoping that Adobe is ready to not too far away in the future let go of Magento as an open source product. And we're talking with the Magento Association, who has the ambition to take over the platform. I have a lot of ideas of what it would look like to fork Magento and build a company around that and enable the community to claim back ownership over the product and be able to build on Magento again, or to build out and bring back a lot of that energy. I'm not sure if the association has the right tools to do this, because they're dependent on Adobe. They wouldn't necessarily need to be dependent on Adobe, but the current situation is that Adobe, of course, founded them and funds them for a large job, for quite a substantial part or percentage. So the association is left to what Adobe thinks is right to do with the platform, and it's well in their right, because they paid a fair amount of money for Magento, and they're using it in the way that's best for them. It's been communicated quite clearly that for them, the future of Magento is Adobe Commerce, which is an Adobe product which lives in their Adobe ecosystem. So how Adobe Commerce is going to look in 1, 2, 4 years is very different from what Magento looks like.
I have to interject just 2 things there real quick. I think that, so you said securing the future, right? And you said sort of building it back. You said, kind of reinvigorating the Magento, what made Magento great, and not to make a joke out of it.
Better.
That's what I was going to say. He sort of said build back better, which was Papa Joe was his platform. I also heard make Magento great again, but that's another thing. But there was another thing there that I think is sort of it's the association, right? The association is supposed to be this, run by the community for the community, but there's not like the sustenance, like the ability for the association to sustain itself is actually quite dependent on an influx of dollars that either comes from partners or from Adobe. So it's not quite the community. And I think that that's the sort of conundrum of the association or nonprofit, not-for-profit model that they adopted, which requires like some pretty structured governance that requires a lot of funds, and that's sort of just where we find ourselves. I find it shocking, and this is in no way a criticism. Love Adobe, thank God for them. Don't sue me, please. But I find it shocking that the company that professes to own creativity of every kind in every channel, the company that powers Oscar award-winning films to be made and Grammy award-winning albums to be made, and the company that provides, every visual piece of media that you see, from film and podcast and influencer to, freaking apps that you run on your phone to make, social media posts with, to like every single part of creativity in our culture is touched by a piece of software that Adobe owns. Why could we not reimagine Magento to be the most creative tool for commerce that exists in the world? It's been 3 years. And you know what we have instead? It's the same product that it was a few years ago with a little extra zhuzh put on it to kind of, fix some, I don't know. It just doesn't, it's a big lost opportunity, right? That's not what their focus is.
their focus, I think, is not in the monolith. Their focus is on building everything that you just mentioned, like the wildest creativity will be possible within their suite of products that lives in Adobe. So you'll have Adobe products that give you wild creativity that just deploys something in your PWA app that runs on APIs only. So that's where their focus is, and that's the kind of customers they want to serve. And I think the spirit of Magento is what a lot of people that formed that spirit at Adobe or Magento and then Adobe, they're not around anymore.
They've been reincarnated as Hyva. That's kind of true. That's the excitement today. That's where I see the excitement in the community. Kaylin, you know this. You know it's true.
Yeah, there is a level side. You know, you guys are gonna hate this, but I see this interesting parallel in the Bitcoin.
Oh my God.
in the sense that with open source. So like all these decentralized protocols are open source by nature, and so there are these thriving open source communities, right? And it actually, it's weird. It's weird because I feel like in e-commerce, to a large extent, SaaS, e-commerce and the web in general, like SaaS has kind of like won as a business model to a large extent. Like there's so many issues with security, and it's almost like in some sense, like the open source, I'm thinking back to those earlier days, and I think that
show me one open source organization that has thrived over a series of decades that didn't have a BDFL at the helm, right? Why is Laravel as popular as it is? It's because it has Taylor Otwell. Why is Tailwind as prevalent as it is? Because it has Adam Wathan, right? Why did Linux become so pervasive? Is because it had Linus Torvalds. You cannot have a fully decentralized organization that is fully autonomous and flat that ever gets any amount of work done without becoming infighting and inbiting and tribal amongst its own core members. Look what happened to the PHP working group. Look what's happened to others that shall not be named. I think by nature, open source is an ideal that is best applied to people that have extraordinary vision. And do you know why Hyva is successful? Is because we have someone who had extraordinary vision trying to solve a real problem without having to, and created something that went out in search of solving a problem that exists in the world without having to consult 400 other people's input, including people that providing capital financing to make it happen. Because that's how we had Magento 2 come around. It's like we're trying to gain consensus. Nothing great in this world comes about because of extreme consensus, right? That's just the case, right?
Well, yeah,
including Bitcoin. That's because Satoshi is a God-man child who.
I think the decentralized consensus thing is really fascinating, but I wasn't meaning to sidetrack with that. It was more.
Oh, I'm the one who sidetracked us. No, you go on. I'm sorry.
No. That was a great point, and I think that Willem does fall under that category of like when you have an open source project, you need a leader that has a strong vision that's going to lead with strength and clarity. And I think that's what you're doing, and that's awesome. I just it's fascinating for me to be dipping my toes into this open source community that's seeing tremendous growth, and then
you mean cult, right?
Yeah, and Magento was a cult. That's a parallel. And
it is actually, it's a very strong parallel.
Now the topic makes sense to me.
I actually saw a LinkedIn post where this one person created a profile on the site. On my site, they wrote this profile like, "I love Magento. I've been in love with Magento for 10 years." It was very poetic, posted it, got a lot of interaction. This one person replied and was like, Magento is a cult. And they're like, I hate Magento. I stopped using it whenever ago. But it's interesting to me to be comparing sort of the old days, right, where the open source community was kind of thriving. Arguably, it's been in decline in many ways, right, for years. And like I think Willem is picking up, like is sort of is making some progress in an upward direction. But like by and large, we've been on kind of this downward trend. And I think that's due to the sort of just the nature of like SaaS eating up so much.
Can I pose a conjecture? When was Magento released publicly?
2008.
Yeah, let's call it 2008. I think it's like okay. August 2008. Okay. When was Hyva released publicly?
Has it been a year now? 2 years? How long has it been?
Announced or launched?
Launched.
February.
Of 21?
No, this year.
2021.
Wait.
Okay.
February.
So the conjecture that I have is open source adoption goes through cycles that map very nicely to economic distress. I think that economic distress causes a high rate of adoption and interest in open source because you have people that are changing careers, people that become aspirational about things that they're and passion projects that they're adopting. So you have a huge influx of interest in a community, right? Then you have people that are just being very honest, like how do you cut licensing and software costs at a corporate level in a time where your profits aren't rising, where your top line isn't rising, you have to cut the bottom line to be able to make some margin. Like adoption of open source software again becomes back in vogue. I think there's a cycle here that maps very nicely in the modern era. Unfortunately, the thing that we are going to deal with in this economic distress post-COVID is that a lot of that effort is going into the crypto and blockchain communities and not into areas that could use the development like e-commerce and traditional like deployed software. And that's where we are contending as an ecosystem of the lack of ability to hire and retain people that are doing interesting cutting edge work. The last time we had a little bit of an economic dip, it was we had a similar situation, and this is 2000, and this is like right around the Trump election. Originally in 2016,
profanity.
Yeah, yeah,
right there.
Hey, yes, exactly. Clean. Let's keep our clean rating. But right around that same era, we had a little bit of a flat line in economic and GDP growth, at least here in the United States. You saw a lot of folks putting huge amounts of effort into open source libraries for AI and machine learning and Python development. So I feel like just we might have had a dearth of 12, 13 years ago of people that were, in deployed software ecosystems. Nowadays, we have a lot of other interesting work to have to compete with, and that's, yet another reason why, like, you cannot create highfalutin, high-minded e-commerce frameworks today and get the kind of traction that you had, solving massive engineering problems in e-commerce, years ago. Those folks just don't do e-commerce work right now. They're moving on to other types of projects. Look at Fabrizio Branca. Like, what's he doing these days? Like, the guy, yeah, it's they move on to solve bigger problems at bigger scale, right?
That's a really interesting observation. I hadn't thought about that at all. But
and probably doesn't hold water. I'm coming back to why Hyva now. Like I think that's the reason is like right. We need something that's consumable by an average human being developer who doesn't have to be a super developer to be able to get any work done. Also, by and large, because Magento is deployed as the open source product, you don't have massive teams of people working on this stuff that have broad capabilities across an entire stack, right?
I sort of disagree in the sense that I don't see it so much as like, oh, like people are trying to cut costs, they're looking for open source. I feel like it just has to do with the fact that M2's front end framework is
Garbage.
a beast. Yes.
Stupid.
And I don't think Willem would have built this if, like, economic cycles being what they are, if they had executed really well on that, I don't think Willem would have had any reason to even want to build this. You know,
literally nobody would have ever built this. Like, if this was the Doctor Strange, like this is the one out of like 6 million, multiverse possibilities. We wound up in the worst timeline where Trump is president, the M2 front end framework is created, and then we got COVID. Like, it was those things in that order.
But actually, Willem, you mentioned that you're not at IntegerNet anymore, and so have you?
He's hiring his own people now. He's got people.
We have a tradition on Mage Talk of when somebody goes full time.
Oh yeah.
Somebody starts a side project and goes full time with it. We have a tradition of announcing this on the pod, but that's amazing. It's amazing. Are you?
That's congratulations.
You're full time on it now, right?
It was pretty clear beginning of the year that to launch Hyva, I needed to spend full time working on it, and I wanted to launch in February, so I took a unpaid month off in February, and then we prolonged that to March, and then we decided to let me work full time on Hyva and my employment. That's really because cool. It made so much more sense for both Integer and me to build out Hyva, and there was just too much that needed to be done. And Integer has let me ride this wave since. So this started in June last year. It's my first commit. And then 2 days later, I had a homepage that worked and that I showed at colleagues at IntegerNet, and we all got excited. A month later, I had a prototype, and they decided to do a first project with that. And they were so enthusiastic to finally have something in hands that they could really deliver stuff with. So also it was immediately apparent that building stuff with Hyva goes much faster than with Luma, faster than with PWA solutions. So we delivered our first project. I think all the front-end work was done in 4 to 6 weeks, which would have taken 3 months. And that was built on my prototype. It was a B2B shop, so it needed some custom work, and a lot of Magento features were not needed there by default. Because we had all this quick order stuff that we did with GraphQL, we immediately created this hybrid between old stack, new stack. So new technologies are just thrown in whenever it makes sense. In that case, it really did. And then I think that was August we started the first project, and then they immediately started up 2 extra projects, and then they stopped working on one Vue storefront project that they had been working on for 8 months, and they couldn't deliver before the end of the year. And the customer didn't. There was no end in sight, and they couldn't properly estimate what it would cost to finish it. And by January, they released the full rebuild on Hyva within that line. And well, obviously no longer within budget because they already crossed that 4 times with Vue storefront. So yeah, it made a lot of sense for them to invest in this product to make sure that it got market ready, and they could continue build their business on top of it. So we had a really good relationship there and a partnership where they allowed me to build stuff for their customers and then put into my product. And somewhere around January, most of the features that they needed at that point were completed, and I just needed to keep going to build in all the features that the community needed and my customers needed. So I went full focus on that from February, and then the 12th of February we launched version 1.0, and the feature matrix was already more complete than PWA at that time. Wow. I had wish lists during my launch in February, which was released yesterday for PWA.
Wow.
From there, one obvious issue that we needed to tackle was the ecosystem of extensions. And we haven't had major releases on Hyva in the past 3 months, I think, because there has gone a lot of focus in these compatibility modules that we built. So we take modules from what our customers request. So what's in high demand, we take those, we make them compatible with Hyva, and then we share just the code to make it compatible with our customers. So today I launched a blog on our own website, so on Hyva.io, and that's built on the Magento blog. And that's a compatibility module that just contains some HTML files that make it compatible. They contain all the CSS and JavaScript. And I made it compatible for our own website, and then immediately built a compatibility module out of that all of our customers can use now. There's some modules from with late navigation and Ajax filtering and everything that we're not really too keen about because they contain a lot of JavaScript, and obviously we don't like that. But we've put a lot of effort in these kind of modules to make at least some of those compatible. So in the whole range of functionalities that merchants need, at least we have examples out there. We have good documentation. We haven't even mentioned yet that Vinay Kopp is my business partner now.
Oh my gosh! How did I not know that?
You did not know that.
I did not know that.
So it's published publicly first time this week in a blog article from Internet, which describes the birth of Hyva, or like how Hyva became offspring of Internet, so to say, or a spin-off. And Vinay started working at Inventor earlier this year, and got involved with Hyva so much that at some point he got gravity pulled him towards Hyva. And
that's so
now...
cool. That's the coolest thing. I love that. Wow, you got the killer team. My gosh.
So much knowledge and so much expertise that Vinay brings in. Not only, first of all, he's the best person I could imagine to work with, because he's the kindest and nicest guy.
He is,
and then also super intelligent and humble. He immediately started off writing a lot of documentation and work on these compatibility modules, and just made the whole ecosystem better from the day that he joined, and started working on it. We're really in a lift. So it's me, it's Vinay. We have a front-end developer that started this week. He's going to put full-time effort in this UI component library. So he'll be building all kinds of menus and navigation and galleries and swatch displays, and very much like Tailwind UI does, a commercial package that we announced this in October already. Like it was my dream. Like that's the product that I want to build, but I needed to build a platform to be able to build that product. That's going to be, the Tailwind UI Ecommerce package was launched today, so I have holiday coming up, so I feel I would really like to start playing with it tomorrow, but I can't.
Well, you have a release. You have a release tomorrow.
Yeah,
and then you have to go on vacation because you told your wife.
Yeah. And boy, I need a vacation. So that's all good. But that UI library is already amazing. So building a shop with Hyva just means you buy a license with Tailwind UI, take the e-commerce package, and then copy their HTML, CSS, or just the HTML because it contains the CSS, and then you implement it into Hyva with the functionalities that we have. You reuse the JavaScript that we built, and you have a beautiful website in. I don't want to exaggerate, but like in a fraction of the time you would normally spend. And
that's to say the least. I think by the time you dig into the documentation on UI components, and you write like 16 or 20 XML files, you could probably get a lot more done in Hyva. I wouldn't know because I can't get my team to spend $1,000 on your freaking license. So, there's that. It's a whole other thing.
Seriously? Wait, we gotta dig into
No,
this.
let's talk about this. I'll talk crap about my team publicly. I don't care.
No, I guess
I'm vesting in peace. I'm
I actually, it's funny because I would have assumed it was more the indie developer that, is just doing a little random thing on the side that wants to use it. Like, I think I've run into one or two people that have kind of fit that description and they haven't been able to, put down the money to try it out. But I would have thought like for companies, it wouldn't be an issue.
In a prior era, there's absolutely there would have been a team that is scrappy working on it. We have a number of challenges. One, Something Digital was acquired by RightPoint back in October, and
just a lot of moving parts. I'm sure
we're in the midst of no. See, you're trying to gloss over, and I'm trying to talk crap.
Yeah, I'm trying to help you out.
Thank you for helping me out. I love it. They're going to play this back for me, by the way, in my dismissal. Be like, I'll be like, why are we sitting here? And they'll be like, hold on 1 second. And they'll pull up, 49 minutes and 27 seconds, 51:30 on the podcast. It basically comes down to this: like what we deliver is extremely known, and we deliver it all the time, right? And we have a roster of clients, 50 some odd, growth clients that we deliver the same thing. Like they're all on the same stack. They have the same common front end and back end. There's an extreme repeatability and predictability. For us to make any kind of investment in the future, it's not a dollar amount. It's a willingness to put effort into, is this what we're going to do? Who's going to champion it? Who becomes the product owner internally? The $1,000 is nothing. Like, it's nothing. I've seen us spend $3,000 on a bottle of wine. So like, it's about. I'm just letting it rip. Watch this. I won't have a job next month. I'll have to come work for Hyva. I could. Do you need an evangelist? Can you pay me in Bitcoin? That's what Kaylin wants to know.
That won't fly with Vinay.
I know. I've seen that. Yeah. So, like, long story short, it's as an agency, and especially one that has less and less agency these days. We're an agency without agency. Like what we do in the future is actually like a long roadmap of, a year and a half, 2 years from now. And we have to have someone internal to champion it, and sort of product manage it as a new line of business. And that's just takes way more time than I'd like it to. And that's unfortunate. And that's where we are. But one day, this year, it's happening. We're going to get there. Hey, maybe we could.
We just like rant about things that we're mildly sure are going to get us into trouble. And
yeah, I'm 100% sure this will get me into trouble. It's not even mild. It's all true though. You can never say that I've lied. Like that's the.
It's half the fun.
Yeah.
How did we get onto this? Oh yeah. By the way, Willem, if you need a biz dev guy, I'm your guy. I'm doing the work for you.
He costs $20,000 a tweet.
I'm overcoming objections.
Yeah, Kaylin, if you're okay with your biz dev guy having laser eyes on Twitter,
you saw saw my laser eyes.
Of course I saw your laser eyes.
I haven't gotten any comments on it yet. So yeah, let me know, man.
Can we circle back to one thing?
Yeah.
Please.
To use the best.
That's what we do here, Willem. That's
Circle
what
back,
we do. We
circle- yeah.
We circle back.
Well, let's
Phil
ladder
runs
up to it at the same time.
Philip runs in increasingly larger circles.
In increasingly larger
We
circles.
And we circle back to points.
So one thing I'm heavily invested in is, and we left that topic because of Bitcoin.
Oh, sorry.
But the future of Magento.
Yeah.
And I just want to ensure people, Magento has a future. Like there's a bright future for Magento open source. And I've been talking to people that are absolutely capable of carrying this platform. And either Adobe or the association comes up with a solid plan to do this, or another initiative will rise and will enable the community and have the strength and the willingness. There is the best thing that has happened with Hyva for me is that all the people that reach out to me have so much passion for Magento and want to keep that going so badly, and they really miss this community and the collaboration and contributing to things and helping each other out. And that has put all the right people on my scope to sit together and discuss what we can do to give Magento a future. And I don't want to get in the way of the association, and I don't want to. I really appreciate the relationship I have with people at Adobe. So I really hope that something comes up that will bring out the best for the community.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm really purely talking about the PHP monolith, because there's if we talk about Adobe caring about open source, I have the feeling that often means the open source PWA app and not so much the monolith, because that's going to be deprecated. That's something that has been communicated, and that will happen in, I think, 2 to 4 years. And
the PHP monolith of Magento is going to be deprecated in 2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Does that mean I have to learn Peregrine now?
No, because Magento won't go away. It's just it won't go away. It will only
like
get
a
better
cockroach.
because we can.
It'll just live on forever.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely not what I have in mind. I think we can bring the right impulse back to Magento to innovate it again. It has been stagnant for the last 5 years.
It really has.
And I think not a lot has happened there, especially on the front end, on the current front end of the monolith, so to say. But also on the back end, there could have been much more innovation if the right focus would have been there. And I think open source contributions are becoming less and less. It's becoming more people getting demotivated because the whole process of getting contributions accepted are getting harder and harder. So you see a lot of complaints. I mean, even freaking people from Varnish, from the organization Varnish, open pull requests that are unanswered for over a year. They're trying to make Magento better and suggest fixes for some issues in the way Varnish is implemented, and it doesn't even get the right attention there. So I really think we can change that. But Yeah, this might be an interesting one to come back to in 1 to 2 months, and see where we're at then. But
I feel like Willem is ready to take over as the BDFL for Magento.
I think so too. I would
allow
vote for
it
him.
to rise from the ashes.
This shouldn't. I don't think Magento should be run by a person. I don't think Hyva should run Magento. I think
it
the community
should be run by
Magento.
a legend, is what it should be run by.
I'm on record for a very long time now saying that I feel like the community running Magento is what we got between Magento 1 and 2, and a lot of people who were into a lot of fads at the time got a lot of input into making Magento 2 the sort of camel that it became. You know, they say that a horse designed by a committee is a camel, and you know, it's like a camel is a project that had scope creep, right? Like that's exactly what happens. And I kind of, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of decision fatigue too with deployed software. I think it's super necessary. And do I think it's going to live on? 100%. How do I think that? Because I watch corporations put tens of millions of dollars into Magento every year.
Magento 1.
Well, no, I'm Magento 2. I'm watching it. I build it. I answer RFPs every day. Like that's my job, is to help them strategize how to use it in their organizations. It's not happening on, you know, Kalen's, you know, smokeshopemporium.com anymore. It happens on it happens in the it's happening in powering
that business is doing quite well.
They only accept business. Bitcoin.
It's nothing to sneeze at.
But it's so like your mom and pop e-commerce store is being powered by something else these days, but big enterprise e-commerce builds that are powering like your healthcare system and your post healthcare needs, post operation. Like you need to buy a walker, you need to go home with a bunch of care instructions, and maybe you need to, you know, put some stuff in your house to like help you with mobility, like a frame around the toilet for you to be able to get up and down. Like all these things are commerce solutions that like companies all over the world are building, and they're putting tens of millions into Magento. I don't think that Magento is going to die. I think Magento has already evolved as a product as we understand it, and the use cases have adapted. What I would love to see is to see the use cases come back to the fore where we have where there can be more consumer interaction, and it can power the new types, the new flexible consumer experiences of the future. Because I'm afraid that it's being relegated to a B2B software stack, and you know, that's you know, that would be a shame, right? That would be a real shame, because I think it's powerful for it's capable of so much more.
I can just imagine, I literally imagined it. I mean, I know I'm joking about it, but I imagine Willem taking over in that role, and I think we've said this a lot of times, Philip, that like you need that person, that BDFL, that Taylor Otwell, that Yoav, that Roy. You need that person at the helm of a product that loves it, that's dedicated to it, to kind of steer it. Like, and in many ways, I think that might be the one single thing that Magento like lost somewhere along the way.
I mean, Roy, does Roy get? Are we allowed to cite Roy's name? He's been gone longer than he was there. I feel like it's not. He doesn't count anymore. The guy sold it the first opportunity. One person says, "Hey, can I buy that?" And he's like, "Yes, like, please,
let's do it."
And the next person says, "Can I buy that?" And he's like, "Absolutely, you can." Mark Lavelle says, "I think you need help running this thing." He's like, "Here, have it. Just take it."
But
please,
I think that was
anyone.
I think that was. I mean, I think it was on one of these exponential curves, and that was the moment, however long ago it was, where the curve started to. And then it took years and years and years, and then, you know, whatever.
It did.
Like I can, and I know Willem hates us saying this because he gave all these caveats about how
Willem has a beautiful story, by the way, and we're pooping all over it. Like there is something really, truly remarkable and very, I think, upbeat about being bullish on the future of Magento, and not just saying that from like conjecture, but saying and I'm doing something about it.
And
right?
and I'm not even joking at all. Like
because I am. I've been joking.
No, but like I genuinely could see Willem doing that, and I know how much he loves Magento. You know, I had that feeling about Magento as a developer myself for a number of years, and then I don't know what happened. Something happened.
You started tweeting for 20 grand a pop, and then
yeah, I love the community.
The passion's gone,
but like
it's just a money printer now.
And more than just having that, but having created a real world product that people are using, and not only are they using it, but they're loving it. When you can create software that people love, like a Laravel, like a Tailwind, there's something magical there. And like, I hadn't thought about this thing of, the rest of Magento or whatever, where that might go, the open source piece. But that would be awesome. That'd be beautiful. Like to see that happen.
It's what's been desperately needed is for someone to come from the outside of the organization and say, hey, here's a totally different way of thinking about solving this problem. We're approaching this whole thing all wrong. And I so welcome that and applaud you for doing it, because it's not an easy thing to do. The fact that you're attracting others around you that say, and we want to help you with it. Like, yeah, that's like, that's how community works.
So many people that are eager to see something like this happen. You only need to ask, and they pop up. And there is such an immense market around Magento, the monolith as it stands currently. I should just state it. Philip, there's people pouring millions and millions in it just this year alone. And I think all we need is some clarity about what will happen with it. And
with Magento.
With Magento, yeah. So if we speak about Adobe Commerce and Magento, being the open source monolith, we need to know what our future is going to be with Magento, what that looks like. And I don't want to sit back and wait until Adobe is going to tell us. Like, if that takes too long, then we have to speed things up. And I know the association is trying to get a grip on this, and I really hope that they can accomplish some statement on this and some time path and just a clear roadmap on what this will look like. Because now all we have schematics that show us how every bit and piece of the monolith will be replaced with another API. Until there's nothing left to replace. So that's,
well, then we'll finally have API coverage. That would be nice.
Yeah, but of a bunch of SaaS solutions.
API coverage at any cost.
This is the funny problem. I'm writing an ebook right now, Willem, that it started out as like the definitive guide to replatforming. And it was like, here's all the things you need to consider when moving from one platform to the next. And so I started doing customer interviews, and I started talking to people, and I went and I looked at all of our documentation of like how we go about building new sites, and all the discovery work we do. We put in hundreds of hours of discovery to make sure that we get everything right and we don't forget anything. And I started noticing this theme of like the hours that we spend every year on discovery for replatforming has gone down every year for 10 years. And I'm like, why is that? And when I started looking into it, it's because nobody keeps data in their e-commerce platform anymore. Some of it's at Klaviyo, some of it's at Yotpo, some of it's like, I've got reviews over here, I've got I've got CRM over here, I've got CDP over here, and it's like literally the only thing that is even owned by the e-commerce platform at some organizations is the product detail page, and that has upsells from Nosto on it, and it has UGC from Yotpo in it, and it's like half of the experience that you are going, like maybe the cart. No, I take it back. Bolt is driving your checkout too, and you have one click on every page. There is no e-commerce platform left. There's nothing left. There's nothing left to migrate.
That's a specific part of the market, though. There is
Yeah.
still a very large SMB market that doesn't
do that. They don't do that.
Magento is their platform, and it has their product data, and it has their stock, and it has their pricing, and it has their checkout. It has everything.
They use Boost ERP for their ERP, and they're good to go.
They're fulfilling out of the back end of Magento, dude. They're literally printing labels with Magento. You can do that, by the way.
Shout out to Boost ERP, by the way.
Are they sponsoring this episode?
That would be great if they were, because...
Do they even exist? I've never even heard of Boost ERP.
You never heard Boost ERP? Is that what it's called? Boost? Boost ERP?
What?
The Magento... The ERP that's a Magento extension.
Is that true?
Is it?
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I think it's called Boost. It's like a French company.
Oh, that's Bist.
Sorry,
Bist.
I derailed. I got a little excited.
It's late for Willem. Sorry, come back around. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say this, but it's really late here. And,
okay.
I have a release day tomorrow.
As we've heard. Where can people get Hyva? Where can they get it?
hyva.io.
And we're big supporters of what you're doing. If in spirit and then sometime in some future, also in truth, we'll find a way to make it happen, at least on the Right Point side of things. But hey, Kalen, maybe you could take some time and take some of that hard-earned tweet money and maybe we could spin up a scholarship for a developer that's looking to get a Hyva license. That's a great idea, right?
Idea.
Take a little crypto earnings, take a little one of those tweets, pop a tweet out for 10K, take a 50% haircut.
Well, I don't have any crypto earnings because we're holding for life. We're long term, man. We're hodling.
Hodl, baby.
We're hodling. Yeah. So
I'm hodling over a Hyva. What an awesome thing.
By the way, if you have time, Philip, do you want to do a couple more minutes after?
We got a few more minutes after Willem.
Okay.
What an awesome time for you to spend time with us. I know it took us literal months to make this happen, and I'm sorry that it did, but it came at a great time, and I wish the best to you and your family, man, and congratulations on all the success so far.
Same to you, and thanks for having me. I'm really glad we finally got to do this. I hope we can do it not too long from now once more, and we might be able to talk about some more future of Magento things.
I'd like that. We should start a podcast called Hyva Talk.
It's not. I don't think that's necessary. Just keep Magento going.
Is it? You think? Okay.
I think the whole community owes you guys so much, and I was meaning to say something along these lines. I remember 8-9 years ago, I was living closer near a forest, and I walked my dog every day, and many of those walks were accompanied by your voices, listening to the latest of the Magento world, and so many insights and so many things that pulled me into the community and made me feel more part of that just from hearing you guys discussing these things. And I think it goes for so many people in the community who have been bonded to Magento by you guys. And I think it's awesome. And I know it's different times, and the Magento community doesn't mean the same thing exactly as it did 5 years ago, 8 years ago. But yeah, I'm happy you guys are still doing this, and great stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
I'm trying super hard not to get emotional about it. I appreciate that.
Tear up. Yeah, but we really appreciate it, man, and have a good night over there. And we'll talk to you soon. I think you can just close out of the browser.
All right.
Or you know what? I take that back. It probably is going to want to upload locally.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably are just going to want to click a close.
I'm gonna hang up and then it'll upload.
That'll do it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
was fun.
That was so much fun.
That was cool, dude.
You haven't asked me what this thing is yet that I've been twirling around for the last hour and a half. Dude?
I know what I'm playing with Lego blocks because I'm in my son's room right now.
I figured something out. It's a brain hack. If I don't have something to play with, I'll pick my phone up. And if I pick my phone up, then I'm toast because my brain needs to do something. And I actually listen better if I'm active, if I'm playing with something. This is a little clamp for like a camera. And this is a thing that I found that I don't think is related at all, but screws in very, like, in a very satisfying way to it.
You ever watch the, what is it? The Reddit page of satisfying,
oddly satisfying or
oddly satisfying. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. You know what's funny is my kids watch some like kids YouTube channels that are called oddly satisfying. It's like people cutting like kinetic sand with knives and squishing slime and I don't know, some other stuff that's like, how is that a thing?
Yeah. Have you I've heard about this this whole slime thing and I don't understand it at all, but I've heard that it's
I don't understand it either.
Massive.
It was actually, I think it was bigger a little while ago. You know, TJ and his daughter kind of started a little slime business on the side.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I
want to say that was like 2019. They were like, she was making slime and kind of selling it at like local farmers markets and stuff. It's pretty dope. Yeah, there's like there was like a whole thing in the slime market around like making slime that looked like things and then you squish it and it's slime. It was like artwork almost. That's how you knew the markets were frothy and due for a downturn.
Dude, it's so good to talk to you, man. It's
you too.
It's a lot of fun. It's like
I need to talk to you more often because when I'm not talking to you, I'm like buying NFTs and you know and swapping Aave and Sushi Swap and I'm in my own crypto world too.
Really?
I couldn't tell that to Willem because I didn't want him to give me a hard time about it. I just ganged up on you over it.
That's horrible. The whole time you were on my side.
I'm a horrible person. We all know this.
We know this. This is not a surprise.
You know this. You already knew this.
We already knew this. So did you actually buy some NFTs?
Oh, I was on the original like train back in December. I have
no way.
Yeah, I have. So I started on Top Shot in like November or December, and I bought. I don't know. I've spent too many thousands of dollars on Top Shot.
Really?
And I have quite the collection there, and then there was a project.
Is that like a
It's an NBA NFT that was powered by Dapper Labs, and it's the one that was sort of the Pokemon Go moment where like a lot of consumers like got into it. They're like, oh, these are digital trading cards. Well, it's actually like it's powered by something. And then there was a project that got launched that got on my radar on Twitter called Hash Masks, and it was like, oh, this is a generative art project. And it was an NFT, and I was like, oh my gosh, we covered generative art back 2-3 years ago on Future Commerce. So I pulled up this old episode that's
wild.
That talked about CryptoKitties, and I was like, what? I've heard
about that.
So I went and checked out CryptoKitties. They were going for like $50,000, dude.
That's one of the big ones, right?
When I saw that, it was one of the OGs. It was CryptoKitties, CryptoPunks, and one or two others. Mooncats. I want to say Mooncats was the original. And like when you look at that and you look at all these projects, and like there were no NFT projects that were launching in like November, December. I looked at Hash Masks and I was like, I think this is going to be a thing. So I wrote a big piece for Future Commerce about it. And then I put my money where my mouth is and I bought a bunch of NFTs. I bought all the wrong ones. I didn't buy the ones that made it. I remember sitting with my wife on a Sunday morning and on a Saturday morning, and we were drinking coffee, and I had my thumb on OpenSea to confirm purchase of something called a Bored Ape Yacht Club. And you'll see everybody with these monkey avatars now on Twitter. And so there was this drop of 10,000 apes, I think it was, and they were all going for, I want to say, like, I forget what the original opening price was, like 0.05 ETH a piece. And I was like, it's a couple $100 or something. And I had my thumb over it, and Jackie's like, you're not going to buy another one of those, are you? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. And she pointed at it. She's like, that one has your hair. You should buy that one. And I was like, I don't know, baby. It was like $366. And I'm like, I can't see myself. I don't know. Like, I'm at this point now that I investigated it. I learned a lot about it. I bought a ton of them. And I was like, I think I'm just going to hold with what I have. That, Kalen, is the project that ape that I would have bought would be worth 50 ETH right now, which would be like $250,000. Oh, no. So kill me.
Oh, yeah,
so I have a bunch of worthless NFTs, but it's been a lot of fun. And Jackie's an artist, so she's like gotten really deep into it to kind of like understand, you know, what art means in a modern context.
Yeah, I haven't gotten too into the NFTs, but I actually heard a Gary Vee video on it, like an hour long video on it, and it was pretty cool, pretty interesting. Just the idea of the uniqueness of like art, you know, like the thing that makes an original Picasso valuable is the fact that it's the original, and that's you know, authenticated in a certain way. So like the similar idea in the digital
provenance
realm
is what they call it, and I think there's something really interesting there. I mean, Gary in particular, you know, made like $1 million off of selling scribbles as NFTs. So, you know, the rich get richer. But I do think that, you know, I'm holding out hopes that, you know, the owner of CryptoSurgs, which is one I bought into a few of, is like, I hope that guy maybe, I mean, listen, you know, maybe that guy gets arrested as being like a famous serial killer, and then they'll be worth something one day. Because the provenance is like, there's a story now behind the person who created it. Very few of these projects are actually going to go much of anywhere without giant community support, which very few of them have. That's the ones that are, you know, going for insane amounts of insane multiples, or like these projects that have tangential benefits, like in mass, which is what Bored Ape is doing. You know, Bored Ape is basically what Webb Smith called a digital country club. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's like, you can only get on their Discord if you own one of those NFTs. You can only get, you know, you can listen to their like chill radio station if you have one of their NFTs. Like, it is a status symbol of some kind. Like, whether that's the status you want, I think is debatable. But I think it's an interesting thing to watch, and I definitely am keeping tabs on it because I do think it has massive commerce implications. But hey, I mean,
it's crazy times, man. It's wild times.
Yeah. Yep.
What I've been a little out of the loop recently. So how's everything going with Future Commerce? I mean, you guys are out of control. Like,
out of control.
I see some of the stuff you guys are doing, and how's that all going?
10 employees, raising around.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Are we live? Are we recording still?
We're still live, man.
This I'm raising around. I'm not going to tell anybody when or how much on here. And so, yeah, it's a whole thing. It's gigantic. Very proud of what we have there, and we've got a new project launching in a few weeks' time called 9x9. A lot of cool stuff, man. We've got freaking tax nexus in multiple states and payroll and AR and AP, and it's very much a business that's, you know, that takes a lot of effort to run. It's very hard to have a side project. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's nuts,
7 figs of revenue, baby. Crushing it.
Are you serious?
Dead serious.
Dude, that's
hashtag build in public. Hashtag build in public. It is wild, right? It's wild.
That's insane.
It is. My tax bill is also insane.
So, I mean, you got to be, well, I guess we'll talk more offline about the future plans, but I mean, you've got to be.
Oh, we've got some plans. We got some
more
plans,
time
baby.
into it.
We're rocket fuel. We're We're doing some huge stuff. You know, there's actually, I do want to talk a little bit about the problem that needs to be solved in trade media. If e-commerce is getting bigger, why isn't the total number of like content consumers in e-commerce growing? And I have some proof points there. You know, at RightPoint, I govern a pretty large performance marketing budget. And, you know, I sit in a part of the org where I'm part of what I do is oversee demand gen. And
anytime somebody says they govern a budget, you know that's a healthy budget. You know, they're not running a budget.
We spend some money.
They're governing that.
Yeah, we govern it. we don't deploy a budget or run a budget. We govern the budget.
Govern it. Yeah.
So yeah, it is a very it's an eye-opening thing that I have insight into every single retail trade publication, how big their list is, how much influence they have, what their open rates are, what their click-through rates are, and I know what content they're producing. And they're all doing the same shtick. They're reporting on what's happening right now, with very few exceptions. eMarketer might be one of the exceptions, but in reality, you know, Retail Dive, Retail Brew, NRF's list, like they're all addressing the same 150,000 people. That's it. And if you look at, like, you know, what I forget what the number is, but e-commerce penetration is growing, you know, year over year. There's very few people to hire in our space. We lack jobs. E-commerce is going to continue to grow, and it's going to be boomtown pretty soon. Like, we need more content consumers for trade and business media in e-commerce, and you have to go create those. You can't just go find them. These people don't listen to professional business content. They're not entrepreneurs. They're people in order to cash and order management and return logistics and supply chain. And you have to create content specific to what they care about, and only that. And so the way that we'll succeed is when we get in front of those people with something that they actually care about. Until then, they're listening to Joe Rogan pretty much nonstop on repeat. And you have to compete with that. Like, that's what you're competing with. And that's where the absence of like business media is not fun. There's no fun, and there's no like voice or tone in it.
It's so interesting because with the not e-commerce related, but with the Bitcoin stuff, I've gone from previously listening to like comedy podcasts and stuff like that, and really kind of unplugging from like work, like learning podcasts, which for many years I was spending a lot of time doing that. So it's kind of in this like unplugging stage. And then just recently, like 2 weeks ago, I've started listening to podcasts, and I'll start this and that. And then there's, I don't know, how 6 or 7 that I'm spending hours. So I'm like a new content consumer in this particular, you know, niche of the Bitcoin stuff. And I'm just listening to hours a day of this stuff. It's like, I'm like fired up on it. And I've sort of stopped like listening to the kind of entertainment oriented stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just in this weird, like stage where I'm just wanting to learn. But it's funny you mentioned that, because it's, some of those dynamics, right, of somebody getting into a certain profession, like business-oriented, work-oriented, professional type of content, and then eating it up, you know. And I'll say, there's a myth that goes around too, of the business media took a hit during, you know, post-pandemic because people didn't have a commute. Right. Like, I would dare anyone listening to this to open up their phone, and maybe you too, and like, I want you to go to your screen time, and you tell me what your screen time is right now. It's gonna be ugly.
It's ugly, right? Like, you're spending 10, 11 hours a day looking at stuff on your phone. Yeah. It's that you just don't have, like, we're incredibly attuned now to things that are boring, and we don't have time for it because we don't have to be bored anymore. Humanity doesn't have to be bored. And that is That is what you're competing with. It's not that people don't have a commute. It's that there are things that are infinitely more interesting in other channels for them to go pay attention to. And there is like plenty of advice to be found of like how to run your email better on TikTok than there is in whatever podcast you subscribe to that Klaviyo is sponsoring. And by the way, I love Klaviyo, and they sponsor Future Commerce, so please keep doing business with us.
Go to klaviyo.com.
Yeah, klaviyo.io/Hyva. But that's one of the challenges that we have right now is that you have to compete with the Joe Rogans of the world. You have to compete. That's what you're competing for attention with, right? So let's solve that, and we can create prolific consumers in trade media if it had something worth listening to. I'm not talking about actionable insights. I'm talking about like humor and fun and high concept. Like we lack high concept shows here. Like, I listen to a podcast. It's absolutely preposterous. And it is the show is a mock draft of like films with a very specific like shtick to them. It's like only films that featured Jesus Christ. Okay. What are the top 7 films? And films where a character is killed in the first 10 minutes. What are the top 10 films, or in the first scene?
So then they go through those actual,
and then they'll like argue about it for 4.5 hours, Kaylin. I'll listen to like that podcast on a run because it's fun. And that's the problem, right? Like I listened to this other show where a guy pretends to be George Lucas, and his co-host on the show pretends to be Watto, who was the Muppet who like imprisoned both Anakin Skywalker and his mom. And the two of them pretend like they're on a game show interviewing celebrities. Like it's called George Lucas Presents, I believe. And it's a comedy satire show. It is preposterous, but we don't have that kind of like high concept humor in trade media. Anyway, it's ridiculous.
Interesting. I was listening to a couple of like comedy podcasts where it's like just a single guy ranting by himself on a podcast, and like Bill Burr has one, and
those are great.
Anyway,
monologue shows are great.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I'm sitting there and I'm going, it's so. We talk about sort of podcast as a medium, right? Like there's a lot of podcasts that are super highly produced and things like that, and then you just have a guy, that's just ranting into the air for an hour, and it can be interesting or like,
and that's an incredible, it's an incredible skill too. Right, like that.
Right.
That shouldn't be
100%.
taken lightly. Like, it takes an incredible amount of skill to be able to just like talk and command someone's attention single-handedly with like a single voice for an hour. That's I don't have that skill.
Interesting. Like, absolutely
not.
Yeah. Like, no, I know. I mean, that's like 1 in a bajillion to be able to do that, and it's interesting because right now the stuff I'm listening to, like a lot of times you don't necessarily want like. A lot of it isn't very polished. It's just like a guy or a couple guys talking, and it's what's the word? It's more kind of raw and authentic, and they're just talking about this or that. And sometimes when you hear something really polished, like for me, like if I hear something really polished, it almost sounds a little funny to my ear because I'm just used to. You know what I mean? Like this kind of more.
You and I are both attuned to hearing an edited show, right? Like a sterile,
right?
Having all of the gaps removed, having all the filler words removed, right? We know what that sounds like.
Yeah.
It takes me right out of it, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. It's I don't know. It's almost a stylistic thing. You get used to a certain style. But yeah, no, it is. It's interesting, man, because I was very much like doing a lot of entertainment stuff on my phone, and I've gone in and out of phases of like wanting to learn a lot. And it's crazy how much you can learn by just jumping into podcasts if you want to, right? Like if there's a topic out there that you want to just dive into, and for a lot of people that, Mage Talk was part of that for them, for their Magento journey and whatever. And I'm sure there's tons of people that Future Commerce is that, but you really can just like, I mean, but it's like where are you as a person? Like as a person, you can be in a stage where you're just kind of more looking for entertainment. You're not really looking for the educational content. You're just not that interested in it. You just don't have the attention span. You know what I mean? And it just can kind of vary from time to time.
I would even say that there's most of this, especially if it's audio content, is consumed while you're consuming something else. Like it's not like it requires all of your attention to participate. In fact, a lot of TV is this way today too, right? A lot of TV is made to second screen. It's where did I read this article in Slate? I forget where I read it. But basically that shows are created specifically to have a cadence that like it only requires you to have to like look up and see what's happening every like 15 to 20 seconds. Like shows are specifically created for you to not have to pay full undivided attention to them anymore. I'm like, that kind of tracks with me. Like that's because a lot of shows are garbage. So, podcasts in particular are the things that you're doing while you're on the way to other things. It's the thing that you're doing while you're doing something else, right? You're going out for a run, or you're working out in the garage, or whatever, you're working on the yard. They're the things that you do that sort of happen. You in the sauna. Yeah. Are you a full naked sauna man? I bet you are.
No, everybody assumes that. I mean, nobody nobody goes into the sauna naked. Well, there's this one random dude that does, but like everybody is dressed and everybody is like has shorts on in the sauna.
Shorts on in the sauna.
But anytime I mention the sauna to anytime I mention to anybody, they're like, "Are you naked in the sauna?" I'm like, "No." I mean, on Tuesdays, that's
maybe yes on Tuesdays. If I were naked in the sauna, I would like prop my leg up on the seat and just stretch. Really lean into it.
Really lean into it. You know what's funny, man, is I was thinking about this the other day. There's all these comedy podcasts, and I was listening to comedy podcasts, and I was going, people would joke about how Mage Talk is like, 20% content or whatever percent content. And I was thinking to myself, and I was going, I think Mage Talk was a comedy podcast. With
the world's worst punchline because it was about Magento. Yeah. But I think you're right. I think you're right.
That was, and I was thinking, we have a good time and stuff. And I love how now all of our episodes are meta episodes where we just talk about the podcast itself.
We talk about the show that used to be on the show that now is.
It's kind
How
of
dare you, Kalen? How dare you? Actually, I have two guys at Right Point who were prolific talk about prolific consumers. They were very, very big fans of Mage Talk.
Really?
And ask all the time, when is it coming back? And like they've told me both, they've both told me, no offense, Future Commerce isn't fun. Mage Talk was fun. And I've taken that to heart, man. Like I totally get that. Mage Talk was a lot of freaking fun.
You're like, hey, Future Commerce makes 7 figures, so don't worry about it.
I'm gonna go chase that. You know what's fun? Liquidity.
It's fun buying $1,000 NFTs on my couch.
That's right.
With,
just buying a bunch of pixel kitties. No big deal. Just because I can.
But actually, as I'm thinking it through, like maybe that is a podcast thesis that you could really run with, is like, that fun comedy angle with some, content thrown in there, right? Like,
yeah, it's the biggest thing that I think is missing in this place. It's probably the thing that Morning Brew has sort of attempted to do in the newsletter space is like have a personality. And I wouldn't even say it has to be humor. Like, just have a personality. And I think that's what lacks a lot is just likable people who are, you know, who, I don't know, you may not even, I don't know, maybe likable is the wrong word. Like, people who
it's definitely
have
the wrong word in this.
It's definitely the wrong word. And I was thinking about that. Like, a lot of people don't like me. I get that. But there's, and I know, I mean, like, I don't even like you. So it helps. It helps to be honest in this situation. But there's something that's endearing that you sort of like grow to love the character of the person that you listen to over a long period of time. And, I've listened to this, you know, movie podcast for a decade now called The Filmcast, previously called The /Filmcast. And they have like shticks and they have tropes and they have their own in-jokes. And I'm going to hear them say the same thing every episode. Like, it's kind of endearing, and it's like, it's your warm cup of coffee. It's like, it's the thing that, like, it's what makes that show that could never be done by anyone else. And they're funny. I wouldn't describe it as a comedy podcast. They're funny, but it just has to have a personality. And I think that's what's lacking so much. Like, if you even put 1 ounce of thought or effort into giving your piece of media some personality or a voice, like, apparently you can sell that for, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars to Business Insider. Like, if it's like a lot of Morning Brew's personality is you know, is kind of fun and quippy and a little and you know, but it's not like they're not writing, you know, the next great American, you know, comedy album. It's a pun in a headline, for crying out loud. It's almost like lowest effort possible. So anyway. What's going on with Commerce Hero these days, brother?
Chugging along, man. Chugging along, posting the tweets, you know, getting the jobs, doing the stuff. I've actually been thinking about maybe pivoting into like Bitcoin with like recruiting and hiring stuff.
I'll tell you right now. Do you know what's missing in the ecosystem?
What's that?
Is blockchain developers and Web3 developers. People need folks that can develop on-chain technologies, Ethereum in particular. Smart contract developers. It's desperately needed, and you owe me money for that idea. So TM, I just trademarked it. So
okay. Yeah, I've done a little bit of kind of research into it, and it feels, but more than anything, I think you have to really genuinely be interested in a space to really make connections, network, really kind of get to know authentically the community in order to be able to make good connections and stuff. So that just takes a lot of time and a lot of interest and dedication and stuff. But I'm finding myself interested in now. Who knows how long that'll last? I mean, you know how I am. It might last like 3 more weeks. But it's just fun.
But that's what makes you so successful, is like your ability to get like hyper focused on a particular thing and go deep on it.
Yeah. So I'm just hoping
that's what we love you for.
Thank you. I just hope that sticks around, because it's fun. You know, it's fun when you're excited about something and you're learning, and so that's been cool, man. I'm not going to get too much into the Bitcoin stuff because I know it's going to drive everybody crazy. Magento community hates Bitcoin, by the way. Like, by and large, they're either not at all interested or actively hate it. 99.9%, which is like, okay, that it is what it is. It's just like, the Magento community by and large hates Bitcoin more than, like, you could pick a demographic, like grandparents over 70 years old. Like, they probably only like 96% dislike Bitcoin, and the Magento community, it's 99%. I don't know why, but that's the response I've gotten so far. So I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave it be.
Yep. Yeah, I gotcha. well, we don't need to talk anymore about it, but I will say, imagine if you had bought into Bitcoin when we first talked about it, and imagine if I hadn't lost my Bitcoin paper wallet back in 2016. Yeah, it hurts bad. Hurts real bad.
It does.
Hurts real
bad. It really
bad.
does. It's like you got to just you got to just not replay the past, and I've done some calculations, believe you me. I look it up. I go back to that date. What if I put money in there? Oh yeah. Okay. But anyway,
I mean, if you had like, I'll tell you right now, the very first mention of Bitcoin on Mage Talk was episode 6.
Whoa.
And hold on. I'll tell you right now. It was in the show notes, episode 6, October 6th, 2014, Kalen. And it says, well, let me tell you all the things here. So this is what we were talking about at the time. One, it says, it seems crazy to Kalen that more Magento stores aren't sold with solid specialized Magento hosting. And Kalen is having a great experience with Synapse. And then it says, the Jamaican bobsled team from the Winter Olympics this year were funded by Dogecoin. PayPal is now accepting Bitcoin. Philip is going to buy a carpenter's pencil at Home Depot for his $5 worth of Bitcoin via PayPal. So if you went and looked, is dinner ready? All right, I'll be right there. If you did what was $5 of $5 of Bitcoin in 2014 would be worth, hold on. You ready for this? Yeah, hold on. I'm going to tell you right now.
It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt too much.
I
think it was like 2000.
It says it would be worth where's this calculator? Why is this taking so long? Hold on. Bitcoin return calculator. I found it. This is great content. We're doing this right now. Starting investment $5. Starting date October 6th, 2014. Ending date. Calculate. I would have $700 right now, Kalen. $688.30. That's a lot of moolah.
A lot of money.
For $5. It's very sad.
Well, on that note, thanks everybody for listening. And if you hung with us this far, I will give you some Bitcoin. I will give you.
It's true. Kalen will.
I will send you some Satoshis if you stuck this far along. But I hope you have a great time for the rest of your day and week.
For the rest of your life.
And
until the next episode of Mage Talk in 20-some months or weeks or years.
Check out Future Commerce if you're looking for some more consistent content.
Every week.